Welcome back to my channel. If you are new, subscribe to my channel. And for all you awesome supporters that I have gotten in the last 10 days, I just wanted to say a big thank you to you guys. There is so much love in my comments and so many people that are just treating me with the utmost respect. And I want to let you guys know that I see you and I appreciate you. And if I haven't read, I try to like every comment, whether it's bad or good. Or whether I agree with it or not. I don't like the comments that are bad, but I don't want to give ammunition to my haters by letting them know what really bothers me. But I will not, stop, Frey. My dog's trying to get in the door. I will not respond or engage into any hate unless it is about Gage or God. Now, I will not come on here and preach to you guys. You will never, ever, ever see me do that because my relationship with God is my own business. So the only time I broadcast that is when someone is broadcasting their non-relationship with God, or that they are an atheist, or that God doesn't exist. At that moment, I have a right to defend my relationship with God, not church, personally, sometimes churches can be just as bad as the world. So I do not support organized religion. Church is in the streets to me. So I just want to let you guys know that, like I said, I'm not going to come on here and give you a sermon. You wouldn't even have known that I had a relationship with God until somebody starts saying that, how could God allow this to happen? Well, that is between you and God, or you and whatever you believe in. So I will not push my beliefs on you guys. Don't push your non-belief on me. That's it. So we don't have to talk about it. I can be friends with anyone. I'm not one of those people that think that gay people are bad and that all of that. That's not me. My relationship with God is personal and I will not share it. So I just wanted to let you guys know that and let you guys know that I really, really do appreciate all your support. And I'm just in awe at how many subscribers I got. And I'm totally happy. I don't want you guys to think that the haters are getting me out of my character, because they're not. I will always address it when it comes to my son. And I'm so sorry that I had to act like that, but it needed to be said. Let's get to chapter 11. Chapter 11 is called Home for the Last Time. Sorry. And she goes back with her inspirational quote, but she doesn't say who wrote it. And she says, death ends a life, not a life relationship. So she goes into, at the beginning of chapter 11, how early in the morning on August 13th, the skies were clear in Frederick, Colorado, and then it was in the middle 60s, and there was a light wind of 15 miles per hour. She said Shannon and her friends left the airport in Arizona on their way home, and Shannon did not. She probably thought, man, this weekend would never end. And she probably wished that if she could do it over, that she would have just stayed home because she was so sick that whole time. And so they pulled into the Watts subdivision around 1:48 a.m. And the author says Shannon could have never known that it was the last time that she would take that street. She was feeling tired and sick, and she just wanted to get home and crawl in her bed and be at home with her family. Things had been weighing heavily on her mind all that week. And she was just wondering how she was going to be able to face life as a single mom and do it alone. She wanted to be at home. She wanted the safety of her family. She felt grief for giving up her home because she knew that they were probably going to lose it, and they had built it from scratch with Christopher. And she most likely searched her heart and mind to figure out how she could repair the way that she had always treated Chris and that she had taken him for granted. Now, these are the author's words, not mine. And then Shannon got out of her friend's car. She opened up the back hatch. She pulled out her suitcase and shut the car door. She felt the night air hit her face. This would be the last time that Shannon would feel the night air in Colorado. She would wave her friend goodbye, and the author says thinking of the finality of it all gives her chills. She said as the neighborhood slept, they had no idea what was happening inside that home right next to them. Only a light that led up her driveway was on when Shanann got home. Chris had left it on for her to get home. And the darkness hovered over her husband and her home, and it was waiting for her on the inside, and she had no clue. That video doorbell camera shows her walking up to the door. Knowing what we know now, the author says that it's chilling to watch her walking up to her death. And as she walked up to the steps of her beautiful home, she felt safe, and she knew that the girls that she loved was on the other side. She walked in the front door. She slipped off her flip-flops right by the front door as she went upstairs to lead her to that evil monster. She then says when the police came to the Watts house for the first time, they saw Shanann's flip-flops sitting by the front door. Now, that's not true. Nicole Atkinson was the first person to see the flip-flops, and she told the police that they were there, that Shanann had to be inside because those were her favorite flip-flops she wore every day. So Nicole thought that was a tell-all sign that she never left. And so she goes back to talking about Shanann making it into the house, and that how Chris said that Shanann always made it feel like a home, that she always made it feel like love dwelled there, and that she probably looked in on her babies without having any idea it would be the last time on earth that she would see them. She undressed and put on a t-shirt and did not bother to take off her makeup. She slipped in the bed next to Christopher, that monster. Had she had known it was the last time she was going to see her babies, the author said she probably would have went to each of them and laid next to them and sweetly kissed them and told them that she would see them in heaven in a few hours. Excuse me. Whew. Just give me a quick second. Okay. Now, these poor souls were sleeping, totally unaware what their father had planned for them, the man that they had loved and trusted. Was about to do the most unspeakable thing to them in just a little while. These happy, trusting little girls were cuddled in their beds, looking forward to see their mommy. But when they woke up, they never saw her alive again. It hurts to think about them being aware of what happened. It was the worst thing possibly to go through for such innocent little souls. His plan to get rid of them from his life. His own children became surrogates of his rage. And his revenge to Shanann. But we all know that Shanann was his first object of his rage, and no one had suspected that his anger had harbored inside like that. And then the author flips to, you want to know more about that night? Well, she flips to on February 18th, 2019, the agents from FBI, CBI, and Frederick Police Department showed up to the prison where Chris was in Wisconsin. And we've all listened to those audios. He was not expecting them, and he was not happy that they gave him no notice. But he needed to clear Shanann's name, so he told the truth about him killing the girls himself. He did not give details surrounding it at all. At the time, he did not tell the truth about how he killed Shanann either, because the author feels like he told her the truth, so that's why she said that. They even questioned her several times during that interview on how he killed her, and obviously thought there was more to the story. A couple of months after approaching Chris, the author decided Chris decided he would tell the author the truth about what happened, and on August 13th, at some point, well, I'm so sorry. I got upset and it really distracted me. Okay, so the author says that a couple of months after she contacted Chris, he said that he would tell her the truth about what happened on August 13th. And when it began, he would give her his true confession, and somehow the author knew that there was more to the story than what he had already told. And since Chris already pled guilty, there was no way that it would get him in any kind of trouble. And the author said she was not ready for what she was about to learn. So that's the reason why she put his letter in the book, because she wanted it to be in his own words. The confession letter is huge and a shocking surprise. She says that it took her a lot of time to decide what the best thing to do with the information would be. And finally, she decided that if it were her family, she would want full disclosure. So here's Christopher's letter, even though we've already read it once. It is on this channel by itself. But I'll read it very quickly. Hello, and this is on the Daily Mail, so I can't get copyright strikes because it's everywhere. It's all over the internet, this one letter. That's why I can read it. Hello again. I hope you're doing well. It's been some time. It's been a while. Awesome talking with you on the phone. But I know 15-minute time frame is a pain. Sometimes I can get right back on the phone, but right now there are other inmates that like the phone as much as I do. I respect their time as well. How's your dad doing? I've been praying on that every day. Yes, that petition really blew my mind that people really want to make me suffer like that. Even if they did ever take my pictures, they can't take my memories. An inmate from another institution wrote me about that subject and said if they take your pictures, they would need to take the pictures from the other 500 to 600 people that have their family's pictures on their cell convicted of the same act. Do I feel like I should be incarcerated? For the act I committed, I most definitely think so. Do I imagine myself ever doing anything like this or be a danger to society? I most definitely think not. If I were ever to be released, I know I would go straight to ministry and start going to jails and prisons and help inmates. If God led me to be ordained, I would go that route as well, possibly even be a chaplain. Maybe the laws will change one day. My attorney team could see I was different and knew that this was a one-time occurrence for me. They told me that in Europe, the law is I would serve 20 years or so for homicide. And in California, after 25 years of imprisonment on a life sentence, you can be released if you have good behavior. So there's hope for everyone to live outside prison walls. I know physically I'm behind these walls, but my spirit is free with Christ. If God keeps putting it on your heart that there is more to the story than I told the FBI, then you are correct. I don't like saying stuff like that over the phone because I'm never certain when they screen my calls. I know I already told you the vision I had before August 13th when I was lying in bed and all the lights were on in the loft downstairs and I felt so alone. That's exactly what happened on April 14th when I was lying in bed. I don't know if you want this in the book or if God does, but here are the things I left out. August 12th, when I finished putting the girls to bed, I walked away saying that's the last time I'm going to tuck my babies in. I knew what was going to happen the next day. Before I did nothing to stop it. I was numb to the entire world. I had literally taken my kids to a birthday party, played with water balloons, and had an amazing time, sang songs all the way home, gave them a bath, a shower, ate dinner, and read bedtime stories, and sang bedtime songs, and still nothing registered. When Shannon had to be somewhere, I always enjoyed taking the girls to places or playing outside because it was our opportunity to bond. And still, the night before, I couldn't stop myself from what I knew would occur the next morning. August 13th, the morning of, I went to the girls' room first. Before I had our argument, I went to Bella's room, then Cece's room, and I used a pillow from their bed to kill them. That's why the cause of death was smothering. After I left Cece's room, then I came back in the bed with Shannon and our argument ensued. After Shannon had passed, Bella and Cece woke back up. I'm not sure how they woke back up, but they did. Bella's eyes were bruised and both girls looked like they had been through trauma. That made the act that much worse, knowing I went to their rooms first and knowing I still took their lives at the locations of the batteries. The reason the medical examiner found oxycodone in Shannon's system is because I gave it to her. I thought it would be easier to be with Nicole if Shannon wasn't pregnant. I don't know if this was a spiritual visit, but I had a dream Cece was dancing next to the chair in my cell. When she was dancing, all of my folders on the chair started moving, and I thought she was in trouble, so I said, "Watch out, get away, watch out." Then I woke up. I'm hoping she comes back. I hope everyone comes to visit me. I'm trying to see if I can clear my head better before I go to sleep to help. I like that John 10:10 passage you sent. I wish I could have had an open ear to hear the Lord calling me back in June, July, and August. If we run after sin, we won't hear our shepherd calling us. I couldn't discern between good spirits and the evil spirits, and that eventually lodged me into a deep pit I could not climb back out of. Take care, and God bless. Chris. So she says after she got the letter, she had so many questions, and these are the things that she told him after, or he told her after the letter. First, she asked him about the oxy, and he told her at first that he gave it to her twice. Once at the parents and the second time before he killed her. At that time, that was the reason why she couldn't fight back. And I believe that. I do not know why he took that away, because there's no way that they would have known that Chris gave her oxycodone because it wouldn't have been in her system from North Carolina. So she also says that at that time, he said that he did give it to her the morning of the murder, but later she questioned him about it again, and he says that he only gave it to her once. She asked him where he got the oxy, and he told me that he would take that to his death. 1 minute, they were downsizing the house and getting something more affordable in a more affordable town, and then they would go back to arguing, and him telling her that he was going to get his own apartment and move out on his own. He said Shannon started crying and that she did not want to separate, and she kept telling him that she loved him. And he says that he hates so much that he told her back, "I don't love you and I'm not compatible with you anymore." He said that she was crying and he noticed her mascara running down her face, and she told him that she could not make it in Colorado by herself with 3 kids. And he says, isn't it weird how he looks back and the only thing he remembers is her face getting all black with mascara? He said there was no feeling coming from him when he told her that he could help her and that she would make it. What kind of man says that to his pregnant wife who is begging to keep her family together? She became very angry and very upset, he says, and told him that she would not allow him to see the kids. And he says here that she was used to getting her way, and when she saw that she wasn't, she would always revert back to anger and threats so she could get what she wanted. He said this time he was not giving in to her demands, and when that right there is when his anger began. He said years of her telling him what to do and what not to do, keeping him from his own family for months, and keeping him in the background was over. He said all the weeks of him thinking about killing her, he was faced with it. And when she started to get drowsy, he somehow knew how to squeeze the jugular veins. Now, if she was starting to get drowsy, that's when he knew to squeeze her jugular veins. What was she getting drowsy for? You gave her that Oxycontin and waited for her to get drowsy because you knew that Shannon could probably take you and that she had a fight in her and that she probably had a will to live. And so you had to drug her, and that's the only reason why she fought back. He said that he would squeeze her jugular vein and cut off the blood flow to her brain until she passed out. He said it was easier than the girls. Yeah, because you didn't kill the girls. And until the end. And then later he says that Bella was the hardest. So she lay there and didn't fight back. He said he held her jugular for a very long time and he watched his hands and he told himself that he should take his hands off, but he couldn't. He knew that if he took his hands off that Shannon would keep him from Nikki. They asked him why she didn't fight back, and he says she couldn't fight back. Her eyes filled with blood as she looked at him and then died. He said that he knew she was gone, And we already said that. I'm not going to say that again. When she did something that bodies do when they die. He said he was wrapping her up in the bed sheet when the girls came walking in the room. He said he didn't know how it could be possible, but both of them were waking up and walking around. That Nikki and him were going to be together, so he knew he had to kill all of them. He wrapped Shannon in the sheet, and Bella kept asking him what was wrong with Mommy. And he said that they both started crying, and they looked like they had been through something. He said that because he had smothered them, that earlier he could see trauma in their face. He could not comfort his girls, nor did he have a desire to. He said that he thinks he told her Mommy will be okay. She just doesn't feel good. And he said he tried to carry Shanann down the stairs, but he lost his grip twice. And she was too heavy for him to carry, so she fell to the floor, and he ended up sliding her down the stairs. And you know those baby girls saw that. You know it. And the girls that were kind of running around the house watching him with scared looks on their faces. Bella started to cry. Celeste started to whimper. What a nightmare. The reason why he had killed them first was so they would not have to witness this. And he wanted to take them peacefully and make it easier for them and him. He says now he didn't know what he was going to do. He got Shanann downstairs and laid her by the back door. Remember, that's where the dog was barking, was by that back door. He ran outside and backed his truck into the driveway. As he was moving the truck, he realized everything and thought about it being completed. He was angry at his girls because they were up and awake. He felt anger with Shanann because he could have killed anything that got in his way, including his parents. He said earlier that he wished that a friend would have reached out to him and told him he was doing wrong. Well, how do we know you wouldn't have just killed that friend too? You just said that you would have killed anything and anybody that got in your way, and you said earlier you felt it was justified. He says his hands were shaking so hard, his knees were about to buckle under him, and he felt like he was seeing through a dark screen. It was too late. The nightmare would not let him out. He said he realized now that the girls getting up and walking around was God's third attempt to give him an out and make him stop doing what he was doing. He says, but it was too late though. He couldn't stop. Something had taken over, and he couldn't pull back from it. He says he gathered the things he needed, like his lunch, shovel, rake, and something wanted him to take the gas can. He did not know why, but the FBI did ask him if he was going to take his own life. He told them that he thought about it, but he honestly wanted us to know that no, he was not going to take his own life. He got Shanann out to the truck, mostly by dragging her. At the truck, he lifted her in the back and laid her on the floor. He says he went around to the other side and pulled her across the back floor, and that the stench was so strong that to this day he can still smell it, and it makes him sick. He says he didn't know if it was of her relieving or her stench of death. He said he grabbed a couple of garbage bags and put them around her feet and around her head. He ran back in, cut off the lights, and told the girls to follow him. He said he was shocked later that day when he was standing in the neighbor's living room and looking at himself on that security footage. He knew that they were going to see the girls walk up to him and put them in the truck. He said he loaded them in the back seat, and Bella said that they didn't have their car seats, so they couldn't go. And he said he remembered him telling her that it was all right this time. It hurts remembering, he says, being so mad that they were still alive. He said they sat up, curled next to each other in the back seat, comforting one another, consoling one another. He said kind of whimpering, but not crying. But of course he would say that. He said the only thing they talked about was the stink in the truck. He could not believe they had come back to life, and now he had to deal with this a second time. And Shanann. He said he was still shaking and sweating, and his heart was pounding. He did not know what to do next. He didn't know what he was going to do. He said nothing made sense, and that he had not planned this out carefully enough. He remembered just feeling so angry And feeling that emotion was something he had never experienced before. He said it took him an hour to get to the battery sites, and he had not calmed down at all. He said the rest of the story we know, that he dumped Shannon in the ground. He walked back to the truck, and he put the blanket that Celeste was holding over her head and smothered her. He carried her up the stairs, opened the hatch, and was surprised to see how small the opening was. He lifted her down into the hole, and she went in pretty smoothly. He says he remembers lowering her body and knowing that he would never see her again. And instead of love that he always had for her, he had numbness, and he could feel nothing for her. He said he couldn't believe how easy it was just to drop her through the hole and let her go. He said he heard a splash when she hit the oil. Without blinking an eye, he went right back to the truck, went to Bella. She asked him if he was going to do to her what he had just done to Cece. He says he doesn't think he answered, but he put that same blanket over her head and smothered her. He could not believe how much of a fight Bella put up. He said little quiet Bella had a will to live. Nothing registered to him. Out of all three, he said Bella put up a fight, and he will hear her little soft voice for the rest of her life, his life, saying, "Daddy, no." She knew what he was doing to her. She may not have understood death, but even Chris believes she knew he was killing her. He said he felt empowered at that time. He had the strength to climb the stairs for a second time and put her little body through the hole of the tank. He said that Bella was harder to get through the hole, that her arms and shoulders did not want to fit in the hole, so he forced her through the hatch. He did separate them on purpose. He was trying to get them as far away from Shannon as possible, and he put them in the tanks to make sure that they did not get up again. So even he knew that they could possibly be alive when he put them in the tanks, and he didn't care. He wanted to make sure that they did not get up again. He said it was that the author asked him why he was so angry with Shannon, that he had a couple of reasons. First, he was angry because she kept him from his family, and he also was angry because she was standing in the way of him being truly happy with someone he wanted to be with. He said had he not killed them, he would have gotten home that afternoon after work, and Shannon would not have let him in the house. That she would have had the locks changed, and just to show him that she was still in control. And he says he would have had to make a scene, and that was something he did not want to do for the neighbors to see. So he put the girls in the tanks for the second time, or put the girls in the tanks so they would not get up a second time. He says that he then went and dug a hole for Shannon. The dirt was loose. He remembered it being easy. He said when he dug the hole, it seemed a lot deeper than it was. He pulled the sheet and rolled her out into the hole, and he says she had given birth, and she landed face down, and he remembered being so angry with her that he was not going to change how he landed. He says he didn't think about the hole being deep enough or it being in the right place, and he didn't make sure that he had everything picked up, so there was nothing lying around. He said he realized he had just murdered his daughters twice. He says he still doesn't understand how it all happened, and he knows they were dead the first time. He says his entire life lay there on the oil site, and all he can feel now at that moment was free to be with Nikki. He said his feelings of love for Nikki was overcoming him, and he felt no remorse. He said the darkness inside him had won, and it was still in him, and he thought it might be permanently in him. He said he felt eviled and swallowed up by this thing inside of him. He felt like he could kill anything and be justified for doing it. He said he felt no remorse for what he did. He didn't feel bad for killing his entire family. He really didn't feel anything. He said his mind went to the dog, and did he remember to put Dieter in the cage. He said the author says, could we imagine the possible horror that was going through those precious little minds that morning? Not understanding, but understanding enough that something was very, very wrong. Not being comforted by their mommy or their daddy. She said that the author says she feels like the girls had hope in their little minds. They had no concept of what was happening or lying ahead, just as Shannon had no idea what was going to happen to her or what she was walking into. She says that she believes those babies were probably very afraid. And after Christopher killed his family, he drove away, and Nikki texted him to look up the Metallica song, Battery. The author challenges us to look up the song Battery, and we will find it interesting. I'm going to do a video right after this one of reading you guys the lyrics to that Metallica song. She says that there's no way that's a coincidence. After Chris wrote the letter to the author, she asked him if he really put the girls in the oil battery tanks to make sure they didn't get back up the second time. Chris says, yeah, it seems so. Christopher went back to work that day like it was a normal day. Later, when they interviewed his co-workers, they said he acted normal that day. They noticed nothing different about him at all, except his clothes were not as neat as normal. They mentioned how he usually came to work very well put together. Thank you for watching, you guys, and I will be posting another video soon. Stay tuned for the Battery lyrics.